Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be a brief overview of the Demonologist subclass in Diablo 1 the Hell 4. I'll discuss some of what are in my opinion the Demonologist's strengths, his weaknesses, ways that I prefer to build him for my hardcore mode that I play, and other things. In order to make your demo, you're going to click New Hero, go to Mage, go to Summoner, and select Demonologist. The first thing I'd like to mention is that there's some traits that people recommend you could take. Now this is totally up to you. If you don't want to mess with any traits, that's fine, go ahead. But these are the ones that I see discussed quite often in reference to Summoners. The first one we'll talk about is Skilled, which gives you a benefit to your current stats based on your C level, and the penalty is that you get less perk rates. Honestly, this can definitely be argued as a very good thing for summoners, given that, as we'll see later in the video, summoners don't have a whole lot of options for good perks really, so this will end up giving you less perks but more stats, which can be argued, and is often argued, that it could be better. Another two that I typically take are Domesticated as well as Blue Blood. These will essentially give you a free experience bonus, but you'll get less stat points to allocate whenever you level up. This, however, does not lower your total potential stat points, so you can raise it by doing Andariel or Mushroom quests later. Basically, you're getting XP, but you will have to spend time later doing a farm. To me, it's worth it. The next and final two perks that I'd like to talk about are Unshakable and Resolute Guard. Basically, Unshakable is going to give you more stun threshold, 40% of your C level, and reduce your total armor class. Armor class is typically regarded as the weakest defensive layer for summoners and mages in general, so it's not a big deal if you lose it. You just want to make sure that you stay above negative armor class. Resolute Guard is going to give you a lot of resistances as you level up, 60% of your C level, and your stun threshold is going to be decreased by 30%. But because of Unshakable, you'll actually come out of this deal with a 10% increase to stun threshold and a large amount of resistances while losing AC. In my opinion, it's a win. Next we'll move on to the minion types that the Demonologist is able to summon. But I would just like to say real quick as far as traits that these are just the ones that I'm familiar with, and I'm sure there's a lot of other combinations that can work. The Demonologist, like all summoners, has 3 tiers of units that he can summon. The first tier is the Familiar. These are your frontline fighters and will comprise the majority of your army. They also have a bonus of being able to fly over lava in the ground, for example, which is useful in places like the caves. The second tier unit is the Goat Archer, which is available around the time you hit Catacombs. They're standard archers that will fire at enemies when far away and run away if confronted. The third and final tier for the Demonologist is the Satyr Lord, which you can usually get sometime by the end of Horror difficulty. He's an extremely tanky frontline fighter that can take loads of punishment, and also has a large amount of AC and does his fair share of damage. All summoners are able to have 7 of their first tier unit, as pictured here, 3 of their second tier unit, and 1 of their third tier unit. The way that you gain access to having these higher unit counts is by learning more books of whatever spell it is that casts the creature, or by simply equipping spell plus gear. Once you've reached the max amount of unit count that you can have, further spellbooks and spell levels will increase their power. While summoner classes can become very strong and capable of clearing endgame difficulties, they definitely start off pretty slow, and if you don't use your minions tactically well, you can find yourself in some pretty tough situations right out the gate. You will likely have to resummon your minions often, and you don't have a lot of mana regeneration when you first start, so this is something that will have to be dealt with. But I can assure you that with time and some grinding, your Demonologist will eventually become very capable, and he'll be able to handle large packs with relative ease. Learning when and how best to use your offensive cooldowns, as well as things like Novas, can also put the character's power over the top. Overall, it's my safest pick out of all the classes I've played so far for playing on a hardcore mode. You have a whole army to distract monsters and take the heat off of you, and they do pretty good damage. The next thing we'll discuss for the Demonologist will be the perk options that you can do. Oftentimes on mages, you want to set up for Ostentation. Ostentation is a high-level synergy that's unlocked starting at 60 and ending at 90 that will greatly boost your stats, but in order to get it, you'll need 20 points into Swift Learner and 10 points into Obsession. I've seen people argue that you should take these late, and I've seen people argue that you should take these early because it'll increase the game speed for you. Honestly, I'm not totally sure what the right answer is, and you should probably just go with what you feel is right. Another one definitely worth mentioning is Minion Crits. Minion Crits scales the best going into endgame, and it is the only minion damage perk that summoners have that will actually scale into the harder difficulties. Perks like strong, accurate, tough, and armored minions, though, don't actually scale very well into endgame as they give you flat values. They are decent for early game, but they won't give you a whole lot once you get to difficulty 4+. Finally, we have Gain Magic, which is a pretty good one that you just may as well get because it goes into a lot of good synergies. Also, I should mention that Mind Over Matter is a must-take for any hardcore run, as it will greatly reduce the amount of damage that you take onto your mana shield. Next, we'll take a look at Synergies. The only synergy that summoners have for minion damage is Minion Offense, which is gained by getting Resistance, which you need as it's your best defensive layer, and gain Strength. While it may not look appealing, you will need Strength to equip endgame gear. Will to Endure can also be considered depending on how you gear your character, and it can give you very big mana and health boosts. Resistance isn't bad, so you should probably get Negation as well, and I've seen some players suggest as well that you can get Energy Field to further reduce your mana shield damage. The final synergy that I'll speak to is known as Ostentation. You can get the first point of it available at level 60, and then every 10 levels after that you can get a subsequent point. I've been led to believe that this is a good synergy for basically all classes, and especially mages, so you want to set up for it if you can, just know that it does take some time to complete. I just want to say by no means that these are absolute must-haves. There are probably many ways that you can build a summoner that I'm unaware of, so I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not saying this is law and fact, it's just what I've experimented and what's worked for me. And keep in mind, I'm doing all of these in a hardcore context where my character can't die. If you're playing in normal mode, you can probably just go full damage and be totally fine, though I haven't tried that myself. Finally, we'll talk about some target items that are very good for the Demonologist. The Demonologist uses an effigy, and I find Master of Puppets to be extremely good. It gives you a minus 20% light radius, and paired with Infravision on the Runebender thread, this allows you to see enemies before they see you, which can really help you in setting up your fights and getting into safer positions. Typically for the Runebender thread, I target farm the Defiler in Abyss, and I also will target farm Catacombs to get Master of Puppets. Face Guard, which is targetable from Festerus in the Still Springs, is an extremely good head item. It'll lower your AC, but that's your least important survival stat, and it'll massively boost all the others. And don't be too scared by the spells are decreased by 5 levels. This game is not like Diablo 2, where each spell level is a massive boost. Honestly, in TH4, spell levels are all not that impactful. They do have a bit of a factor, but it's not the end-all be-all. Finally, we have the Leoric drop set. Leoric, on every new difficulty, will drop a new piece of this set, and as you stack up the set pieces, the minion bonuses on them become very, very strong, so this one is highly recommended to work in as many pieces as you can possibly get for it. And the final thing that I'll touch on is how to allocate your stats for a Demonologist, or any summoner, or really any mage. Obviously, magic is your main stat. It gives you mana, spell damage, regeneration, and also boosts your minion power. So that is your main stat, and you want to dump most that you can into that. But I'll also say don't neglect vitality, especially on a hardcore mode. It gives you all-around resistances as well as arrow damage resistance. These are extremely useful defensive layers that you're going to want. And then of course you have your strength and dexterity for equipping gear. Alright everyone, so that's it. That's my overview for the Demonologist class. And again, I'll say, this is not a comprehensive guide, or I'm not saying that this is absolutely what you must do. I'm sure there are many viable builds that are possible for the Demonologist. This mod is so incredibly deep that the amount of ways that you can customize your character is honestly mind-boggling. So, if you want to use this as maybe a starter template, or just some general guidelines, I'd say be my guest, and I hope that it serves you well. But also, try your own thing, do a little bit of theory crafting. That's how we discover what the meta builds are. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, it'd be awesome if you'd throw it a like, leave a comment, sub to the channel, all that. And thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great one, and have fun in Diablo 1 the Hell 4.